We're live.
We're live.
How you doing, Joe? So for anybody who's watched any of this stuff before, this is my son, Joe. Say hi, Joe.
Hello, I'm Joe.
And I'm Evan. We're both Vikings fans.
A little bit.
Are we frustrated Vikings fans or just Vikings fans?
Always, frustrated every year, every game, every week.
I know. We have Packers. Do you have friends that were Packers fans?
I do. And Danielle's my wife, her side of the family, one of her uncles, big Packer fan, and one of my best friends, Brian, who you've met, he's a Packer fan. So I know, and I went to school in Wisconsin, so pretty familiar with him.
Yeah, I have some friends who are Packers fans, and they're always giving me shit every time the Vikings are playing. So I started doing this reverse engineering, reverse kind of psychology thing. So the whole time I was like, yeah, go Falcons. They're still, they can still pull this out, just to disarm all the shit, because I've never known a team in my life that, and 53 years, right? So it's like a long life. I've never known a team. I've never known a team that can invent more ways to lose football games than the Vikings.
At least they're winning them this year.
I know, it's crazy. So let's talk. So this is post game for the Vikings against the Atlanta Falcons. It was a noon game. It was in US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. The Vikings pull it out 42-21, but I don't think the score really tells the story of the game.
I'd agree. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters. But yeah, it felt much closer than, double the score. So.
Right.
But
when the game started off, right, the Atlanta starts with the ball, right?
Yep.
We defer. We get the ball at the start of the second half. Atlanta marches right down the field, scores a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
It's 7-0 right out of the gate. And I'm thinking, oh, shit, here we go again. And what makes it worse is, your quarterback for the last 6 years plays for the opposing team. What did you think after that first, 70-yard drive, right? From the 30 all the way in. It took 6 minutes and 2 seconds off the clock.
Yeah, I mean, as I was watching it, it's always tough with those first drives for any team, any game that you play. Most of those first drives are always scripted. So, the offense knows what play is coming, this play, then this play, then this play. And so it's always tough to stop that first drive just because, they go into that game practicing, that set of 10, 15 plays. But the thing that surprised me most was their ability to run on us. I mean, we're the best run defense in the NFL. I mean, Brian Flores loves to blitz, bring extra pressure. When you do that, you can stop the run well. And so their ability to stop the run, or their ability to run on us, rather, was surprising. And it showed up on that first drive all the way through the whole game. I mean, I don't know what they averaged per rush, yards per rush, 4.9 looks like. For what we do and what we've done this year to see that, it was surprising. And obviously, when Kirk spent his 8 years here, such a polarizing player. A lot of people loved him. A lot of people hated him. There wasn't a lot of in between. And so to see, him kind of come out and make a couple of good throws right away was surprising. And, the first, like I said, that first drive is usually scripted, and you'd like to see the defense be able to step up. That's why we defer. That's what we do. We want to stop right away, get the ball back, and take control of the game right away. So surprising, I would say.
Yeah, it was surprising to me too, because I was like, I truly thought like, oh God, here we go. They marched down the field. There really wasn't much resistance, right? I think they maybe even. Oh, they did. Okay, so they had a third down, and they actually did that fourth down. I don't know if you remember that fourth down play.
Yep.
It was 4th and 1, but that was already when they were on the Minnesota, inside the Minnesota 10-yard line.
Yeah,
So up into that point, they had like no resistance, running the ball well. Kirk Cousins, I think, was something like 4 for 5 on that first drive.
Yep.
And then we get the ball back, and I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do with this, right? We get the ball back and we punt.
Yeah. 7
plays, kick it back. And thank God, Atlanta, then it was just kind of this frustrating game for me. It felt, thank God we had some turnovers, right? Those 2
Yeah.
interceptions just kind of saved our ass. But yeah, it was frustrating. At the half, we were up 14-7. That was the score. But if you look at the stats for that first half, 13 first downs for the Falcons. We had 8.
Yep.
Right. Which, okay, that's fine. 257 yards total offense for the Falcons to 120 yards for us. And I'm like, 257. You're on pace for like 500 yards here.
And they almost hit it. Yeah.
80 yards rushing at the half.
Yeah. That's for, like I said, the best run defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you allow that? I mean, that's usually when you have a team like that or a defense like that either stops the run or stops the pass. The other side of the coin is you're going to let up, more passing yards. But they kind of did both in that first half. They had no problem running it, no problem throwing it. And going into half, obviously with the lead is helpful. But, the feeling, at least as a fan perspective, obviously I'm not out there in the field, but feeling that from a fan, it's like this game's going to get out of hand in the second half. They're going to run away with it. If they do what they did, we were able to keep them out of the end zone easily in the first half, obviously minus that first drive. But, when you allow, like I said, almost 300 yards, 80 yards rushing in the first half, your defense gets tired. Your offense is out there punting the ball and you get that one lucky play lucky, whatever. Sometimes I text you during the game. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. To get that play to Addison, that's nice. The DB has no idea where the ball is, a safety. So, I feel like week in, week out, just an overall kind of view, in my opinion, there's no consistency to really anything. I mean, the defense has been good pretty much up until like the last game and a half. And that's, you like to see that the offense hasn't really done much. And then this game was kind of a flip. The defense, 21 points is not a bad defensive hold. I imagine that's probably somewhere around average for the NFL, somewhere 20, 22 points. But then, for the offense to put up 42, that's huge. And it feels like we made the adjustments at halftime, which is something I was pleased with. It feels like we haven't done that, in the past. It feels like we usually...
well, going to the half, we were up 14 to 10. And then after the third quarter, it was a tie game.
Yeah.
It was 21-all, so it wasn't, to me, it didn't seem like they really made much adjustment at halftime, but things just kind of came together for us in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It was, because when you look at the score, you look 42-21, you think this was a blowout.
Yeah. Right. We're running for five. We're going for 500 yards total offense, and kind of the other way around.
Right. Yeah, they beat us in just about every statistical category, including time of possession, passing yards, running. It was passing, or total yards was 496 to 433.
Yeah.
Right. That's indicative of a 42 to. Right. That's not indicative of a 42-21 game.
Yeah.
And you look at passing, they actually outpassed us minus the 2. And it's always, it's like, well, minus the 2 interceptions. Cousins had a pretty damn good game.
Yeah.
He found open receivers. He didn't seem like he was struggling too much. That first interception was a shitty throw.
Bad.
The second one, that was a hell of a catch.
Yeah. Byron Murphy's coming.
But still a bad throw.
Yeah. Overthrown. Yeah, that's surprising too, because from our experience in watching Kirk in the last 8 years, he terrible. When the pocket breaks down and he has to move or scramble, he starts to panic pretty hard. And so it surprised me a lot too, that there was many times where just watching the game, I haven't watched anything else. We brought 4 people. Why aren't we blitzing more? Like, obviously Brian Flores loves to blitz,
especially on third down.
Right? He loves to blitz. That's what we do. That's what his whole defensive scheme is. Move people around and bring extra pressure. And so to not see that on pretty much I would expect is 90% of snaps at least. A quarterback that's not historically is not mobile. Then you throw in the Achilles injury a couple years ago for him. even less mobile than before. Like, it was surprising to me
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't bring more pressure more often.
Yeah, I agree. We had, they still, again, 42-21. You wouldn't think 496 to 433 on total yards. You wouldn't think 25 first downs to 20. You would think that kind of score to me is like 25 first downs to maybe 15.
Right. Sure. Yeah. For 21 points
on our side.
Yeah.
But because we didn't really, minus the interceptions, we didn't stop them.
No.
Really much at all. And they, and then the fumble, certainly helped on the kickoff return.
Came at a good time for sure.
They gave us the ball at the 28-yard line, something like that.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, going from playing football in high school and a little bit in college, and like coaches, whenever they were talking to me, what wins games, there's usually three things, and first one is time of possession, which we lost in this game, not by much, but that's usually a big tell of how the game went. Number two,
up until the fourth quarter, we were getting our asses kicked on that, though.
Yeah, that was pretty lopsided. Number two is plays run. If you can run more plays than the other team, obviously you're controlling time of possession. You're controlling the game. I'm looking right now, 56 to 70 total plays, and we ran 14 less plays than the other team, than the Falcons. So that's a big one. And then the third thing they always preached was turnovers. 3 turnovers to, we didn't turn over at all on offense, and that's a big tell. We've struggled with that. Darnold, struggled with some interceptions. Aaron Jones was, had struggles with fumbles. So to not turn the ball over at all in the whole game, refreshing to see. It's good to see. Like I said, that's a big. And I think.
Well, speaking of Darnold, I mean, look at the stat line for Darnold: 22 out of 28, 347 yards, 5 touchdowns. The thing that I loved about Darnold in this game that I hadn't seen in prior games was he was more of a gunslinger.
Yeah,
a lot of times when you see him back there, we see him back there in the pocket and he's making his reads and he's checking down, and it's like, you got to get rid of that ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? His time for release back there is kind of shitty because he just seems nervous to let that ball rip. And today he let it rip, and there were a couple of plays where, thank God, he had receivers who were watching, were able to come back to the ball.
Yeah.
That helped a lot. So Addison, and I mean, that in terms of like game balls, I mean, for sure, Darnold, how can you not with 5 touchdowns? That's crazy. And then Jordan Addison and who else had a
Jefferson.
great game? Oh, Jefferson, right.
Yeah, he had two touchdowns. Yeah, 100 plus yards.
First touchdown since like October.
Yeah, it's been
he hasn't had any
5-6
touchdowns since October.
Yeah. Well, that's tough when, obviously you're the best receiver in football and, best player. Obviously there's bias associated with that, claim.
No.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I mean, best receiver, best player in football right now. And I mean, I fully believe that he's going to go down as the best receiver to ever play the position. I think he's going to, the way he's doing things, if he can stay healthy and keep doing what he's doing, he's going to go down as the best to ever do it. I mean, he's already in that conversation. He's 5 seasons with 1,000+ yards every season. The fastest player to 1,000, 2,000, what all those marks in his career. So if he can stay healthy,
he's a great receiver and he's a great team player. But if you consistently go 2 months without getting him a touchdown, eventually he's going to get frustrated, and eventually it's going to become a head case. I mean, we've seen that happen with so many of the other elite receivers in history. So that's my big concern about Justin Jefferson is you got to find ways to get him the ball.
Yeah.
And I think, and one of the things I really like about what they're doing is if you're going to double Jefferson, it's probably going to leave single coverage either on Addison and or your tight end.
Hawkinson,
right? So you double
Waller sometimes.
And so you make them pay for it, right? And so now I think you're starting to, on the offensive side of the ball, especially now that Darnold is getting a little bit more confidence and willing to sling the ball a little bit. I think you're going to see Jefferson free up a little bit because Addison definitely made them pay today.
I was going to say, it seemed like one of those games that kind of was telling of what is to come, because you can't put 2-3 guys on Jefferson every time, because now Addison's getting open, Hawkinson's getting the ball, so you can't dedicate so many resources to covering one person. Well, and obviously, like I said, he's the best player. You can't dedicate
Right.
that when the other players are starting to step up. Like Addison right now, the way he's playing the last couple games, not for anyone that plays fantasy football. I got him on my bench today. He's got 40 points. Like that stinks. But you can't, if you're gonna dedicate all those resources to Justin Jefferson. Addison's starting to step up and starting to make those plays. He's been, first couple weeks in the season, he had that, like a high ankle sprain injury. So for him to kind of come back healthy now and start making those plays, it just makes, now you got to respect both of them. You can't focus all
Right.
your effort in one player. So
Yeah.
that's nice, for the offense, especially
you only have 11 defenders.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So if you're going to double, that's going to free somebody up, or you're going to have no pass rush, right? So you play this chess game and you continue to double. And that was what I think other teams were willing to get away with on, previous games. We didn't take advantage. We didn't. And some of that I think was, Darnold not being willing to throw the ball. I think they made us pay for that, where, they were doubling Jefferson. Addison was, there were opportunities to get him the ball a little bit more. And I think today you finally pay for that. And so hopefully that's the takeaway for Darnold, is to, get that confidence, man. Start slinging that thing. He's got 25 touchdowns and 10 interceptions on the season.
Yeah, he's playing
something like that. 28
for his contract. I mean, even for anyone, for him to be playing that well, he's up there. I mean, it's crazy that. I mean, he had a couple of bad games, but statistically speaking, like, it's crazy not to put him in that conversation. Yeah. Like, I don't know what Josh Allen's stats are, but you got to imagine he's up there similarly. And they're talking about Josh Allen being a runaway MVP.
No,
like, I'm not saying Darnold's going to be MVP, but I mean, he's sure playing
Burrow?
well. I love
Burrow.
I'm in 2 fantasy leagues. He's my quarterback in both of them.
Yeah,
but
Burrow's
the tough thing is,
beat.
The tough thing is they put so much stock, whoever they are, the voters for MVP and whoever else, they put so much stock in the win-loss category, and they say it's a quarterback stat, which is BS, because he is, I mean, again, statistically speaking, and looking at like fantasy football, and they give the players ranks, he's the number 2 ranked quarterback behind Lamar Jackson as far as fantasy scoring. So he's throwing a hell of a lot of yards and a hell of a lot of touchdowns. Right. Not turning the ball over, not a lot of.
Yeah, Jackson's having a great season too. 29 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Oh my, he's to kind of go on a tangent away from the Vikings. Lamar Jackson, he's really,
that's all right.
It's fun to watch him come into form, because he's kind of shied away from being. He still runs. He's obviously still, probably the best athlete out there in football. But to see him kind of shy away from immediate pressure, run, to kind of, get out of the pocket and escape and make throws. And, the Ravens have always been, fun to watch. And was that John Harbaugh? Or was that Jim? I got to shake him up.
There's too many Harbaughs.
Yeah, but
we need less Harbaugh. We should start a petition and maybe a protest.
Less Harbaughs in football.
That's what I'm saying, man. I mean, because it's just confusing anybody who wants to talk about them.
I was trying to, but no, it's and you got a former golfer on that team too. Speaking
of mobility, I mean, Darnold's third? Maybe it was the 4th touchdown, right? He was dead to rights. I think they were going to take him down. He scrambled to the right. He almost looked Tarkenton-ish, except for Darnold actually threw a spiral. There's Fran Tarkenton. I don't think ever threw a spiral.
Not in his whole career. Maybe football, college.
Right. But he hit again for a touchdown. Right. And that was mobility that I hadn't seen in Darnold before. I think today was, hopefully, this will be a takeaway for him to have that confidence. And, because he even coming out of USC, he had all the skills, right, to be able to get that ball into tight windows. I think sometimes Sam Darnold is just maybe a little bit of a head case. He lacks the confidence. Even when he back, looking at, when he was playing for the Jets, how much of that do you think was just like head case stuff?
Yeah, questioning his own abilities for sure. And right. I can't remember who I was talking to one time, but they were questioning what a head coach actually does, or, do they actually have an effect in the game? Like, absolutely they do. And that's proven with Sam Darnold's career now. Like, he has all the talents. He's got all the abilities. Obviously, like you said, you see that at our college, being a first draft pick, was he first overall? Maybe. I don't know for sure.
But I can look it up.
Yeah. I mean,
how do you spell it again? DARN.
Get out of here.
OLD. No, you get out of here.
Yeah, for him, obviously he's got all the talents coming out of school.
He was the third pick in the 2018 draft.
I mean, just imagine what that feels like to be in the, even if you're in the first round, you're obviously the best or second best at your respective position. And so, for him to come out that high, and then, he goes to the Jets and he struggles, he went to the Panthers, and like both those teams,
sucked obviously,
they've sucked. And now even like the Jets fired their coach, Robert Saleh's out. The Panthers have been struggling since Cam Newton was there. And so you got a lot of respect on KOC to be able to kind of revive. I mean, he played quarterback. He knows what it takes. He played a little bit. He was, drafted to the Patriots, so he kind of knows what it takes. He didn't play much. But he knows what it takes.
They're calling him the quarterback whisperer.
Yeah. I love it. That's, to be able to
proof's in the pudding, right? I mean, you took Sam Darnold and he's doing the thing that nobody expected us to do. The Vikings right now are 11-2.
Yeah.
If I were, prior to the start of the season, if I were to ask you, what do you think the Vikings are going to be 13 games into the season? What kind of record would you have set?
I wouldn't have guessed this. And like, you put too much stock on like what all the experts on all the different networks say. I think our overall respective record that they predicted us to be at the end of the season even was 7-10 or 6-11, one of the two. And to be able to, be where we are now at 11-2, 13 games in, that's, like you said, the proof's in the pudding. Darnold's balling out. Our defense is playing lights out. Minus today, whatever. But, yeah. And so, like, anything that happened. No, go ahead.
I wonder what we're going to see I just wonder what we're going to see in terms of adjustments next week, on the defense. Because that is concerning to me, because you've had this consistent, and Atlanta's got a good offense. But not this good. You made them look like Hall of Famers out there today.
Yeah, they was running through butter. It was nothing for them to run the ball. They were throwing the ball. Obviously, again, the turnovers are huge. Those turnovers help. But, you can't put all your chips in the turnover category. You got to be able to limit the yards, limit the first downs. So, yeah,
158 yards rushing, which I think is the most by any team against the Vikings this year.
I got to
imagine. And the 338 is a top 5.
Yeah.
The 496 yards, 500 yards. You would expect, seriously, you would expect your team on the road. If you got 500 yards of offense, you would expect your team to win.
You're crushing. Yeah, you're destroying that game. If you give me just the
suck to be a Falcon today.
Yeah, if you give like just the statistics on the game, and you maybe hide the turnovers, because again, those are huge. But you hide those and show me just like the yards, time of possession, first downs. You're thinking that the Falcons ran away with this game. You're thinking it's the other way, 42-21, instead of us.
And that was the frustrating thing for me when I was watching the game. The first half, the fact that we went into the half up 14-10, to me was a miracle, because we were getting outplayed in every part of the ball, right? I think at that time, Atlanta had 3 sacks. And this is a team that 2 weeks ago had 10 sacks, right? Worst in the NFL. Yeah. Last week they got 5 sacks, and then today they got 4 sacks. So I was really disappointed, because I thought the offensive line played like shit in the first half. I thought, man, especially knowing what I know about Sam Darnold from the previous games, like if this guy's happy foot guy, afraid to throw the football, and you're not going to give him time in the pocket, and he's going to get sacked, you're going to rattle this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because just as much as, Cousin is probably feeling the pressure of coming in to his old home stadium, you also got Darnold. Like, I'm playing against the guy that, I took this team from this guy.
For 8 years, yeah.
So I was, honestly, at the end of the half, I was like, man, I just hope it'd be nice to win this game. I don't think we're going to win this game. And even after the third quarter was nothing impressive to me. We had a lot of things turn the right way for us in the fourth quarter, which, we outscored them 21-0 in the fourth quarter. Take the fourth quarter out, it's a tie game.
Yep.
So it was good to see that. And that's one of the things I really do like about this team is resilient.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like I said, put up 21 in the fourth is huge. And it just, I'm sorry, it's someone standing over here distracting me.
That's okay. This is our first time doing this, man.
Yeah,
so I'm not
we're
expecting it to go well.
Trying to do laser focus. No, it's
I mean, the fact that I'm wearing clothes is a bonus, I think.
That's huge. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, yeah, I mean, it speaks
you
volumes.
Didn't want to see this.
No, probably. Yeah, I got a shirt on there too. Well, you. No.
Right, it speaks volumes. You've said that like 3 times, and I keep interrupting you.
We're trying to do it. No, I mean, when you get to that point and you're tied at the end of the third, and at the end of the day, too, on a different note, it's football. And, you could have a team that's going to, put up 700 yards on you. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is that score at the end. And sure, you want to correct all those things. You want to not let that many yards up. You don't want to have this and that happen. And you want to, play a perfect game. But that's not the NFL. I mean, these are,
right.
There's 32 teams full of 52 people on each team that are the, probably top 52, if you want to say that, the top of what they do. They're these are the best players of this game. And so, no matter what, if you're a, 11-0 team, you're going in, you're going to try to play a team that hasn't won a game yet. It doesn't, that's why it's just as hard to go winless in the NFL as it is to go undefeated, because, week in, week out, these are the best guys, the best people to do what they're doing. And you're putting, 11 at a time on the field against each other. They're trying to stop you just as much as you're trying to go. So, and there's a movie, any given Sunday, any given game. And so, to obviously be able to, and these games, and even the last couple of games, like the Cardinals game last week, where it came down to the last couple of plays and we had to go on defense, make a stop to take it. And then, the Bears going to OT. Like, these games, in my opinion, are going to, pay dividends when it comes to making it to the playoffs. Because when you get to the playoffs, it ramps up. The players that are there, they fully believe that their team, they didn't just sneak in the playoffs. They made the playoffs. They believe they got a championship team just as much as the next team. And so, these are the type of games where, they beat us in a lot of statistical categories, but we came out with the win. And then, look back last week and the week before, and even the Jaguars game, the Jaguars game, we beat them in everything. Yards, time of possession, first downs, whatever. And we snuck away with that game by, I don't know what it was, a field goal, 12-9 or whatever it was. So,
a lot of these games, I'm looking at, because I agree. I mean, we should celebrate the win. 11-2 is awesome. But one of the things I don't like about being a Minnesota sports fan is we're okay with 11-2. We need a damn championship, and so I'm hoping. So I'm looking like bigger picture. In order for you to do that, I think you look at just this last week, right? And you could go week by week. If you watch the Lions game, the Lions played the Packers, right? They're in our division. They're in our conference. I mean, they are our number one competition right now.
Yeah.
And you watch them play, and then you watch us play this week or last week or the week before. Right, I think the last 3 weeks, and we should be happy again that we won the last 6. Good for us. But if you watch the way the Lions played versus the way we played, the Lions that played the Packers this week, would they have beaten the Vikings this week with the way we played? And I get it; it's different teams, different everything. There's still something missing from this team in terms of just confidence. You know, when I watch this team play, it's different than, and I'm not a Lions fan by any means, but when I watch the Lions play, I have this like, oh yeah, they're going to make that. I mean, you just have this confidence about them, and I don't know where they got it, and I don't know how we get it, but we should be able to go out in the field and be like, yeah, we're going to kick ass this game. Like I should already felt that, before we even started against the Falcons. Are you shitting me? This team ain't good.
No,
the fact that they were 6-6 was kind of fluky.
Yeah. I mean, Kirk's not playing well. Their defense isn't good. They got a decent running game, and I mean, like the touch on the Lions. That's watching a team that's they're playing up to their level, and that's what it's always felt watching the Vikings. They always play down to, up to, whatever the team that they're playing that week. It's not, the
and
Lions
championships teams don't do that, man.
No,
championships
the Lions
teams will just stomp on your throat when they can.
That's what it is. The Lions have that killer mentality, and it does, come down to the coaching, in my opinion. When you get to that point, like I fully love KOC. I think he's a great coach. Like I said, quarterback whisperer, offensive mind, whatever. But Dan Campbell is a whole nother
he's a great coach. Yeah.
Whole nother level. He is, like I said, the bias. I want KOC to win Coach of the Year, but how do you snub Dan Campbell? I mean, he is the belief that he puts into the belief that he has for his team. Thursday going for it on that fourth down. Like you could have just kicked that field goal and be like, all right, defense, but don't even give him the ball. Get that first down. You knew they were going for it. I knew they were going for it. Everyone knew they were going to go for that fourth down, and they got it, and they ran the clock out and kicked that field goal, took the game home. And so his ability to put belief in his players to really up their confidence, and then their belief in him too. I mean, it goes both ways to be able to believe in your coach. And, anything he says, like, yeah, we can do this. We can get that first down. Let's go do it.
Right.
So, it seems.
And I'm not saying that KOC doesn't have that either.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at, and when you look at us competition, I think we obviously need to up our game more, right?
Yeah.
I'm not impressed. Again, celebrate the win over the Packers, or not Packers, that'll come hopefully, but celebrate the win over the Falcons. Great. Feel good about that. But it's no time to take the pedal off the metal. We have a hell of a lot of work to do. If you took today's offense for the Vikings, especially in the second half offense for the Vikings compared with like the defense that we're used to.
Yeah.
That's a team
6, 7, 8. Yeah.
That's a team I think, will give the Lions a hell of a run. And so I think hopefully that's what we can work on, especially next week, right? Next week, we're playing the Bears at home.
Monday night. Yeah.
The Bears have a new coach. They're kind of a little bit of disarray, but I mean, you don't know what you're going to get, but I would love to see us just put together a complete game. I don't know if the Vikings have put together a complete game yet this year.
No, I agree. Absolutely. Quick second. I got a 2-year-old that's screaming real quick. I'm going to go. Give me 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Bring him on the show. I'm going to turn off my camera so people don't just sit here and look at me.
No, you should. I'm going to leave my camera on. They can see all the junk in the background. But 30 seconds. Give me 30.
30 seconds. All right.
Yeah. Time it. Ready, set, go.
Okay. Now I don't know what to talk about though, because it was such a conversation that we were having right there. Vikings. Yeah, they could have played better, but they played well enough to win the game. 21 points in the fourth quarter. Yay, Vikings. I don't know what I'm supposed to say right now because Joe's getting taking care of that. We'll edit this out of the final recording. Is it 30 seconds yet? Because once it's 30 seconds, then I don't have to do this anymore. I have tattoos. There's one there. One there. That's all I got. Penalties. We won the penalty game today. 13 penalties to 6. If you looked at, I don't know if people noticed how many in the beginning, at the end, towards the end of the first half. I don't know if you noticed. One of the things I was watching was just why we weren't able to get to the quarterback. And it seemed like there were quite a few holdings, especially on Cashman as he was coming through the middle. They finally called it towards the end of the second half, and that was good to see. I didn't know if that was going to continue to go on for the rest of the game, if we were going to have to deal with that. I hate calling games either way for referees. Here's Joe. Welcome back. How's the 2-year-old? No, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just sitting here saying a whole bunch of nonsense. I was talking about the penalties in the, especially towards the end of the first half. You and I noticed because we were texting back and forth, and I didn't mention player. I didn't mention anything. I'm like, man, it'd be nice if they call a couple holdings here. And then they finally then threw the flag, I think, on a couple plays after that.
Yeah.
Because it was basically the same exact play.
It was.
We had Cashman had come up through the middle, and I think it was probably the right tackle that looked like he had kind of wrapped him up. Maybe it was the center.
That's correct. I think it might have been the running back even.
Oh, it might have been. You're right.
I think Cashman came through the center, and the running back tried to pick him up. And go ahead.
No, I get you, man. So all right. So celebration, big win for the Vikings. The fact that they're 11-2, awesome. I think I tell all my friends, who are not Minnesota sports fans, that it sucks to be a Minnesota sports fan, because I think, if you look at like, other teams that are winning, that have won or do win championships, they have a different mentality about them. They don't accept like 11-2. Great. That's not the goal. The goal is not for the Vikings to be 11-2. The goal is not to make the playoffs. The goal is to win the Super Bowl. That's why you play the entire season.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think, so I think that's why I come off as critical a lot of times, because 42-21, it wasn't a good game. It was a win. Yeah. That's good. But there were lots of opportunities for you to lose that game. Lots of opportunities, I think, for you to improve your game. I thought the offensive line, if I were to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give them maybe a 4. I think, they could have played a lot better. Yeah. But then they did open up the running game towards the end, towards the second half, which, that was good. I can't believe you gave up 4 sacks to these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I didn't know going into it that the Falcons were the worst sacking team in the NFL. And,
10 sacks through 12 weeks.
And that, for how our offensive line has played, this whole season, they've been great. And obviously, with Cam Robinson replacing Darisaw, I think Cam Robinson's done a great job at left tackle. Obviously, to replace Darisaw, he's probably top 3, if not number 1. But overall, our offensive line, I'm wearing an offensive line jersey, and I'm wearing Bradbury. So, played it in high school, a little bit in college. And so, for them, come say hi. Well,
and especially when you were seeing, because of those 4 sacks, sometimes you blame the sack on the quarterback. Sometimes you blame the sack on, coverage. Yo, hey, Jackson. Hi.
Wave, say hi.
Hi.
Yeah, buddy.
You excited, buddy?
Football. Don't touch.
Oh, he's happy.
Yeah, you don't touch.
No, he wants to touch. We need to get him a computer. Does he have one?
He's got like a little leapfrog learning one. Yeah, that's not for you, is what it is.
This one?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
A little curious brain for sure. All right. Love you, bud. There you go. Back to the points.
No, I think so. So the offensive line, because Darnold is more prone to sacks. I think generally because he doesn't get rid of the ball quickly, quick, and he's reluctant to make the ball, to throw the ball. If you watch, some of the best quarterbacks like Tom Brady, watch how he goes through his progressions. It's so damn fast.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's made his reads. He's on the 4th receiver in like a second. He's already knows, where it's going. And I think Darnold today, it seemed like, especially in the second half, he made more of those kinds of reads. They were just quicker reads. So when you look at those 4 interceptions, or not 4 interceptions, the 4 sacks today, that wasn't on Darnold. I think all 4 of those sacks were on the offensive line. That's why I thought they kind of played like shit today.
Yeah, I don't disagree. There's one, I don't know, the I don't know Falcons players. I know it's number 93 that came through and made the sack, and I know that it was Bradbury, the center, and Blake Brandel, the left guard.
Mm-hmm.
And 93 came through, and both that's sort of lack of communication. I don't think it's a skill issue. I think hold on, buddy. I think that the issue is not skill. I think it's probably communication wise, because when that sack happened today, it was 93 came in, and it looked like Brandel tried to pass him off to Bradbury, and Bradbury's like, that's your guy. And then he came through, slightly untouched. He wasn't untouched, but easily came through and made the sack. So I think the pieces are all there for the offensive line, and
Me too.
yeah, and it's tough to like be an offensive line guy. Like I wearing the Bradbury jersey, I believe in the center Bradbury, and I think he's got good control over the offensive line. And then to get more into the nitty gritty of it, the right guard Ed Ingram played like the first 10 games, and then Dalton Reisner came back off injury, and that was a big contention point of like Ed Ingram is a great run blocker, and he's better, how much ever pressure, stock you put into, take that to mommy. You go out that door. You put the stock, how much ever stock you want to put into like the Pro Football Focus or like the run win, pass win percentage. I don't know how they calculate that stuff. You got get out of here. But Ed Ingram's a better run blocker statistically, or
Right.
however that those come into play. And then Dalton Reisner is a better pass win, and so it's like, who do you want to play? Do you want to try to run the ball, and maybe you cycle them in, but then you're given a tell if you're going to run the ball or pass the ball, and then so not keep getting too deep into the water there, but I do think that the skill is there, and I think they got to kind of just come together, and I think they've done that this year. I think that the offensive line has played well. Especially in the past couple of years, we've, the offensive line is always, and that's, at the end of the day, that's where games win or, you win or lose a game. And that's where, everyone says it. Defense wins championships, often, whatever. Games are won and lost in the trenches. You got a better offensive line than their defensive line. You're going to be able to run the ball. You're going to be able to throw the ball. And so there's a lot that goes into that. But I think they didn't play. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I didn't think they played great today, and obviously, if you like to see the pressure, you'd like to see Darnold try to get away and throw the ball maybe a little quicker. You got to try to help out those offensive line, because that's, I'd say that's got to be one of the hardest jobs in football. Is you're a 300-pound guy, but you got a 300-pound guy that's trying to just can do whatever he wants to you besides hit your face mask. He can swim move, he can bull rush, he can stutter stunts.
Yeah, so. and I agree with all that. It's just that when you have an offensive line going against a defensive line, and a defense that isn't a sacking defense, and you give up 4 sacks, and like I said, from what I saw, those sacks weren't because Darnold wasn't getting rid of the ball. Those sacks were on 2 of them, the pocket collapsed completely. And the other 2, a guy came through largely unblocked. Now I think on one of those there, our running back or fullback, was supposed to, hit that guy and take him. But either way, cause you can't be on him too bad either, because he still, produced, 400 some odd yards of offense. So it's got to be okay. And your quarterback still shook it off, and threw for 347 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's like your offensive line. I guess the question, and maybe it's like on the defense, right? I think for me, the biggest disappointment, for the biggest success for today's game was Darnold playing, the 2 receivers in particular, Addison and Jefferson, I think had great games. There's a lot of things that happen for those guys to have great games. On the defense, it just seemed to me like the entire defense was sort of out of sync. There were way too many passes where it was just too much of a cushion, right? You were back the linebackers weren't back far enough, or even the running, right? I mean, That's it. Your run game is usually a combination of of your defensive line and your linebackers plugging the holes.
Yep.
So somewhere in there, but then I don't know, man. I think maybe just the defensive scheme today was kind of shit. I just think maybe our defensive coordinator called a bad game today. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough to know whether or not, from just, I'm not that deep. I don't, know what the defense is calling 3-2, 4-2, nickel, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I can't disagree with maybe they didn't call a good game. Like, we're one of the, and even last year when we had Flores, like, we like to blitz, and it didn't feel like we brought a lot of pressure this game. And, sometimes the run can outrun the pressure. They can get a good scheme against it. But when you bring pressure, I feel like, too, you can stop that run because obviously you have guys coming up to plug holes or, you got an extra, rusher. And it didn't feel like we brought a lot of pressure today. And, I think I said earlier on this, too, is Kirk Cousins isn't mobile. He's, even after the injury, he's less mobile than he was before. So it surprised me that we didn't, like, consistently bring 5-6 guys. Like, why, like,
Right.
and for them to be able to put 500 yards up, they put 21 points up. But, KOC coached Kirk Cousins for, 3 years, I think it was. Brian Flores had a defense against him. And so it's like, this quarterback in and out, like, what he's going to do, his,
Right.
all these things. So for them to not, I feel like they didn't leverage that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It probably does come down to a certain extent, defensive play calling and coordinating the game. So again, it's tough because I'm a big fan of KOC and I'm a big fan of Brian Flores, and so it's tough
Yeah.
to.
I mean, you can still be a big fan.
Yeah,
You can still be a big
criticize him a little bit.
Well, a lot bit. I mean, shit. If you play a shitty game, you should be able to say you played a shitty game, right? I mean, when you love somebody, that's what you do, right? You tell them the truth. It's not like, well, it's okay, buddy. I mean, it was pretty good.
You did okay.
No, that sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, that sucked. And it should be something. And again, I think that's maybe that's, if you look at, some of the best, Super Bowl coaches in history, those are the kinds of coaches that they were. It was about winning. And it was about telling you the truth. Like, this was a shitty game. But when I look across like the stat sheet and I recall like the plays throughout the game, I can't put my finger on a specific player that just had a shitty game. Like a lot of times in the defense is like that, it's like, well, just the whole defensive backfield was crap, or the linebacking core was playing like crap, or the defensive line was playing. I mean, it's something. But when you look at like throughout the entire game, there were parts where it just seemed like players weren't in the right places. It seemed like it was a scheming issue. It seemed like you weren't calling the right defenses, which is a chess game, right? So maybe this is just an aberration. Maybe Flores, he's entitled to a shitty game too. But I hope they correct it because, they're going up against a defense next week or an offensive next week that's not scary. But I didn't think the Atlanta Falcons offense was scary either.
Yeah.
We have an extra day of rest, right? We're playing Monday night.
Yep. Bears at home.
And then
or in Minnesota. Yeah.
Then it's the Packers, right? After that, who do we play after that?
So. Well, let's take a look, huh?
I think it's going to come down to, that game in Detroit against the Lions, and we should be. And I know you always play like one game at a time, but that's true. You only play one game at a time, but you also prepare for the future, right? I mean, even going into the season, right? You're preparing to win a Super Bowl. And so what do we need to do to get those things to win the Super Bowl? And then you prepare game by game. It's the same kind of thing here, right? So we've got to prepare for the Bears game, but we also have to be thinking like, what things do we need to shore up in this team so that we can beat the Lions?
Yeah.
Maybe not once. Maybe we have to beat the Lions twice if you want to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to have to. I mean, if you can, we need the Lions to lose. They play the Rams, or not the Rams, the Bills coming up, and the Bills are good. But yeah, I mean, to have any hope of catching the Lions pre-playoffs and, get a higher seed or anything like that, we need them to lose and we need to beat them at home last game of the season. And
Not at home, at their home.
It is at their home. They beat us here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They beat us 29-27.
Yes, yeah, that was another
home.
game that. Yeah, I don't talk about that game, but yeah. So we gotta beat them. They gotta lose a game or two, and you got to keep doing. I mean, keep doing what we're doing, and each week, each game feels like something else needs to be fixed, and we are doing an okay job of fixing the previous thing. Feels like we're just trying to plug holes of, we're good. We're a great team. We got a lot of talent on offense, a lot of young talent on defense, and don't take the analogy too seriously or too literally, but it feels like a sinking ship. We're not sinking by any means. I mean,
it's not sinking ship at all. But
it feels like we're just trying to plug those holes of the water that are coming in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we got to fix this on defense. Okay, we fix that. Now this popped up. Now the offense isn't good. Now the offense is good. Now the defense isn't good. So that patch didn't hold. So it's, if it like you said earlier too, we haven't played a complete game yet. And maybe the one complete game we did play was like week 3 or whatever against the Texans. We kind of, from the get-go, jumped on them and never really let up. And so, it's.
No, I agree with you, man. This is a very good team.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not 11-2 unless you're a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the kind of guy where I don't want to be really good. I want to be the best.
Yeah.
I mean, the Vikings are 60 some odd years in this league, and we still haven't won a Super Bowl. And at some point, you got to be like, it's Super Bowl or bust, right? I want to win. There's only one team at the end of the season that ends on a win, and I want that to be us. So I'd rather be 7-6 and win a Super Bowl than being 11-2. 11-2 doesn't really do anything for me. It helps us with the seeding. Maybe it makes our path to the Super Bowl a little bit more attainable. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to beat the Lions. We're going to have to beat them probably twice. Yep. And
definitely, yeah.
We're probably going to have to beat either Buffalo or Kansas City if we actually wanted to get all the way. And so if you're thinking like, all right, if that's going to be our path, well then this game, okay, it was a win. It helps make our path better, but there's definitely shit to work on here that we have to be better. We're never going to beat the Lions or those other two teams with the way we played today.
Yeah. I mean, the deeper you get into the season, the better every team gets. Whether or not you're winning record, you're going to make playoffs or not. But especially the teams that are going to make playoffs, the Lions aren't getting any worse. Obviously, their defense has kind of been decimated by injuries. But as far as it goes from like a schematic standpoint when it comes to coaching and the players, putting in the effort, they're not getting any worse because they know where they're headed. They know that they want to make it to the Super Bowl. And so, and I'm sure it's a quote and I'm sure everyone said it ever, but I always like to say the Vikings have always been good. They've never been great. They've never taken that next step. They're always competitive. They always sneak into playoffs or barely miss it. They always, winning records, blah, blah, blah. But it's like they never take that next step. They make the playoffs, they lose. They make the playoffs, they win a game. Or like the Minneapolis Miracle year, you make it to the playoffs, you win that game. You're playing at home for the NFC Championship. And then you score right away. It feels great. You got high hopes. And then you lose 52-10 or whatever against the Eagles in your own stadium. And it's like, that was years ago, but it seems like it's the same thing every year of like, you're always hoping that they want to, they can take the next step. They can be great. They have that killer mentality. They don't let teams back into the games. They don't let up off the gas. The defense shuts them down. So it's always, I would like to watch not even a week because there's been weeks that you can watch and kind of breathe and it's a good game. I want a whole season, maybe not even a whole season. I want 3/4 of a season, 2/3 of a season. That's like,
I'll take a full game.
You're right. I can just relax and watch the team play football and know that they know that they're going to win. And then, a lot of times it feels like it's, confidence based and, you never know what's going to happen. You never.
And this is crunch time, right? I mean, you're coming into.
This is where it's got to change.
Right. You're coming to the last quarter of the season, essentially. And so now's the time to, reflect and, button things up and bring this thing home, because this, and that's another thing. I think this team is capable of it. I think you've got the right players. You can win a Super Bowl with this team, but they all have to have good games, right? They all have to play well. You have to have proper schemes, but the defense has to. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I can even blame like the defense, like the defensive players, as much as it just didn't seem like we schemed it right this game. And maybe the Falcons threw us some curveballs on offense that, we didn't see coming, in prep time, and looking through, the videos and what have you. But yeah, I'm excited about this team, to be honest. I think, like I said, if things go right, they can do it, but not like today. Let's button this stuff up, clean it up, and kick some ass.
Yeah, I think we were talking about a little bit over text too of like, previous games, the defense has been there. They've shut down opposing offenses and they've done a great job. And the offense has been, lacking a little bit. And even like last week against the Cardinals, like the defense played, ultimately pretty good. They only, whatever it was, 19, 20 points. And the offense struggled kind of all game till late. And this one, obviously put 21 in the fourth, but the offense felt like they were playing pretty good throughout the whole game. And the defense, watching any Falcons drive, it felt like, you just kind of knew what was happening, especially, when first downs, they were, I don't know what the stat is, but I'm sure they were averaging probably 5-6 yards on first down. They'd run it on first down, 5-6 yards, and, you set up second and short. And then, it's tough as a defense to stop that. They can throw the ball incomplete and then run it again and get a first. So yeah. Watching the defense today was not as fun as it's been. And obviously there's, like I said, there's things fixed for, especially the defense side. I think the Falcons probably, and that's where these games, I think, have a lot of potential benefits. Like, you won the game. That's really all that matters. And got a kid running here. You won the game on offense, whatever. You win the game and it's beneficial, but then, you get all these things that you can try to look for. And, you're playing Falcons, bad team, whatever. But, you hope that you can take this and take a lot of the things that the Falcons, kind of exploited for that defense. What did they do on offense to really exploit our defense? Like, they were able to run the ball well, the short passes, and, Cousins kind of feathering over the top a little bit. So there's a lot of things that I think that you could take from this game, and even the games in the past, when the defense or offense didn't play that good, and you can take that and kind of apply that to future games and fix those things. And then hopefully, future games, the, opposing offenses see that, like, oh, the Falcons did this, let's try that. But you fix that. And so now it doesn't work anymore. Now they got to try to find new things. So I think, week in, week out, obviously the goal is to win the game. And even when you get to playoffs, you just want to win the game. That's what it is. But, have those.
It's only one game I want to win.
Yeah, right. The one at the end of the year, the Super Bowl. But, it's nice, I think, to be able to use the information here to.
I forgot. I forgot it's the Bears next week, and then it's the Seahawks. How could we forget about the Seahawks?
Is it in Seattle?
The mighty, yes.
It's always
mighty
in
Seahawks.
Seattle.
I know. Who likes Seattle? Who wants to go to Seattle? I've never.
It's been
really want to go to Seattle.
It's always, no one wants to go to Seattle.
No, it's not even
coffee.
Is that still the United States? It seems like Canada. I don't think
so. It might as well be. It's way up there, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess we have to go there. And then it'll be the Packers at home.
Yep.
And then we'll be wrapping up with the Lions. So we got 4 games left in the season.
3 of them divisional. Yeah.
Yep. And I think, I think 2 of the 4 are very, very, very winnable. I think the Packers are always, you just never know what you're going to get with the Packers.
You could, I agree.
But I think, that's winnable. That's at home. And then the Lions, man, that could be that. Hopefully that's the time when we bring all this shit together, right? We put together that real good game plan. We all execute on that game plan. We play the offense kind of like we did today, kind of like Darnold did in the last drive last week, kind of like he did, you know what I mean? We put this together, and then the defense play, the way we expected them to play today. I mean, I think we can beat the Lions. We only lost to them by 2 points. And if you look at
the Bears, the Bears right there too.
Well, and if you look at the statistics of, when we played, that was a really evenly played game. There was no runaway statistic in anything. It was, two evenly matched teams. And I think that's how we are on the field. I think when you look at the skill set of the two teams, you're evenly matched. I think it's going to all come down to coaching. It's going to come down to scheming, preparation. I really don't think that, Flores called a good defensive game today. But I know he's capable of it. I know he's a hell of a coach.
He's done it before, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so if he can put together a great game plan for the Lions and we can continue to elevate our offense like we did today, I think there's a good chance we can beat the Lions. And then you go into the playoffs with all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
And you just mow people over. Yeah. That's my hope.
I love that hope. And I think that, like I said, it's very possible. The talent that we have on both sides of the ball, I mean, we should be, especially now this far in the season, we know what every player is capable of. I mean, you look at like the defensive pickups with Jonathan Grenard and Van Ginkel, who almost had another pick six today on that screen pass. That was just a step too early. He was. Then you look. I mean, obviously the offense is absolutely stacked with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on for both sides of the ball. Like we should, on paper, be good. And then it's weird to me that they predicted us only win 6-7 games this year. When you look at a roster, like minus the quarterback position early in the beginning of the season.
Well, I mean,
know what Sam Darnold was
quarterback's a hell of a position. I mean, it's a really important position. So
that's where I think a lot of that came from.
Yeah, because the Vikings have certainly impressed me so far this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm critical. I'm always been critical of the Vikings because we always just beat ourselves.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? At some point, you just got to put your foot down and say, screw that. I'm tired of losing because we beat ourselves. We're going to, you just have to have this winning mentality, and I mean because that's what wins championships. That's what you see in Kansas City. That's what you saw in New England, with some of the greatest teams, that dynasty. It's this mentality of like, I mean, think about Bill Belichick, not really likable probably, but won you championships. And that's kind of the point, right?
Great coach. Yeah.
And I don't know about Andy Reid down in Kansas City, but he seems like sort of that same kind of coach, maybe a little nicer.
Yeah, it kind of brings me to another point that I want to talk about. We kind of talked about earlier. There's the refs too. I mean, you never want to put
only losers.
I know. Blame the refs. I'm not blaming. We won this game. I'm not blaming the refs, but I do want to say that there is a disparity between, if you look at like Kansas City with Mahomes, and you look at, I mean, even like the Vikings with Sam Darnold, like Mahomes is going to get all the calls. Kansas City's, they're at the, when that happens, you start thinking about it from like a business standpoint. And like Kansas City is more of a marketable team than the Vikings. And, you might want to try to sway games a little bit their way. And like we touched on earlier too, like we were texting about it. You texted me like, I was a bit bad misholding call and you didn't tell me the player. And I texted you right back and, called out the player and what play it was.
Mm-hmm.
And, like we both saw it. And like, again, I love football. I played football. I'm a big fan and watch it. But like, when I catch that stuff, you think the guys that are getting paid on the field, the refs, are going to see that stuff as well, especially when it happens right in front of the quarterback. And like,
but you pointed out too. I mean, we're biased, so
absolutely.
I wasn't watching.
Absolutely, take that. Yeah,
I'm guessing that there were. I'm just guessing. I don't know because I wasn't watching it that way, but I would guess that there were just as many missed calls probably on the Atlanta side. I don't know.
Wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
Because, and I do know that certain players, you see the same thing in any professional sport. You see the same thing in the NBA, with LeBron, obviously.
Yeah.
I was watching the game, the Wolves against Golden State. They're playing in tonight, but the last game,
Yep.
night before last. Seth Curry was getting every call. It's like nobody even touched the dude. He just fell down, and but here's the thing: those guys earned it, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, I mean,
they are the face of the sport, and I think if you want that same kind of thing, like if the Vikings won a Super Bowl and Sam Darnold became the darling of, like Pat Mahomes is, you get those calls, man. It comes with the territory. So when you're scheming for that and you're coaching against that, you got to account for it. Like, all right, let's figure out another way to beat him where we don't get that half step before we hit him, like everybody else gets.
It's got to be part of that conversation when you play those good teams that they're going to get more calls. Not even good teams, but the more likable, marketable teams. You got to know that they're going to get calls, and so you got to plan for that. I don't disagree. And then on the other note, that I think we've talked about too.
I hate every missed call. I mean, every missed call pisses me off. It's like
it's tough when there's that Cashman one was pretty egregious. And again,
the interception too. I mean, that interception, in my opinion,
with Shaq Griffin
being biased. Yeah. He had both hands on that ball, and it was clear that it was clear that ball was taken from him after they had hit the ground.
Yeah.
But all right, and that's another thing about the great teams, right? When you get those bad calls, you just
fight through it.
It should be a motivator. Like I'm gonna, you screwed me over. I'm gonna kick your ass now.
Yeah. You got to use that as fuel for sure. And so, that's where
I do like that about this team though, too, because this team didn't crumble because of that.
They kept fighting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really been different from previous years. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I just really think that today, the player in general, all the players played pretty well. I think it was more of a coaching thing today.
Yeah.
And they get their grace to have a not great game.
I got to think that's an easier fix than trying to fix players and their motivation or their skill level. I mean, obviously, like I said, the players played well. You think that the skill's there, the talent's there to win games, and you think that the motivation's there. Mm-hmm. And so, to shore up the coaching, play calls, schematics on offense, defense should be easier to shore up than it is on, to fix those players. Because it's, I would think that your talent, your drive week in, week out should be the same. And then the coaching obviously is going to change week to week. So you got a game plan for each team. They do different things. They run different plays. So, and on that note,
I'm gonna go through some positive stats really quick because just leave it on a positive note.
Well, before we get on a positive note, we've talked about it before, and I think it's a pretty prevalent point is play calling. We've talked about this before. Play calling. Yep, from KOC. Again, preface it with
today was pretty good. I thought
not bad.
Better.
There's two plays specifically that stood out to me, and I for some reason I'm just blanking on one of them. But the one of them that really was bad. Don't call me on that. One of them
Are you talking about that?
Yes.
Hook and ladder, whatever the hell that.
Then the screen pass. What is that? You just got a first down. Again, it's always after that. You got momentum. You get a first down. And you got everything on your side. The crowd's in it. You're moving the ball. You're in the red zone. You're getting ready to punch it in. And then you get a first down. Sweet. Everyone's jiving. Everyone's happy. They're moving. And then all of a sudden you call this play on first down where it's, a pitch, back to the lateral, back to a flea flicker, and then you throw a screen pass. Yeah. If you run that play, you throw it deep, sure, give a shot. Maybe you get a corner sleeping on that or coming up on it. But you throw a screen pass on that? And so of those like, again, Kevin O'Connell, great coach, and majority of his play calls aren't bad. A lot of them don't stand out to me like, oh, what was that play call? But when they stand out, when I see play calls that really do they stand out, because that play call was awful.
Yeah.
And the quarterback sneak. That's what the other one is. The quarterback sneak. We're not a quarterback sneak team. What are we, the Eagles? We're not going to do the whatever tush push. We're not going to do that. We lost a yard.
Are you talking about? Oh, well, and same with that when you did the direct snap.
That's what it was. That when Darnold,
the 2-yard
that's
line,
what it was.
So you sent Darnold out, and he was kind of lost. Because he didn't stop. He was like,
he just kept kind of moving. Am I far enough? Yeah. But that's another play call. Like, you got first and goal or second and goal from like the 2-yard line, and you're gonna run that. Just snap the ball and hand it off and run it. What are we doing here?
Just
Why are you getting fancy? Tell your offensive line, get low, beat your guy, and run the ball in the end zone. Don't get fancy. There's no
right.
That's what I think you've always said it too. Is complexity or whatever is the enemy.
It's always the worst enemy. It's
there
always
you go.
the worst enemy of everything.
Yeah, keep it simple. What are we doing all this fancy shit for? Run the ball. You're in the 2-yard line. Get low. Tell your offensive lineman to win. If you're going to win a play, win this one. Punch it in the end zone. Run the ball. So there's a couple.
That's what the best teams do that, right? The best teams.
Yeah.
The championship teams master the basics.
Yeah.
And that's how they win. It's not to say that they won't do a fancy play every once in a while, but
yeah,
that's
what it always seems like KOC's play calling. Majority of the time I like it, but it seems like some of those weird, fancy play calls, trick plays that he calls, come out like the weirdest times. Like you're not down, you're winning this game by 10 or whatever. You're up, you're winning.
Yeah.
You got a first down, you got momentum, and you're going to call that play. You're going to call this little flea flicker back to the screen pass.
But
that's a play you call when you're down by 10.
But what would happen if it worked?
I don't know. I probably still would. I don't know.
You'd be like, oh my God, that was fucking brilliant. I can't believe you did that.
Probably. Yeah, that's a tough place.
I know that's what I would do. That's what I would do. I'd be like, oh, that was smart as hell.
Yeah, but then it comes back to like how often those plays. Yeah, keep it simple. And that's when KOC watches this, because we're homies, he knows me. I talk to him just every other day,
Well,
so when he sees this, I try to tell him.
I was just texting him. I'm like, hey, bro, we're live right now. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, he probably is watching in the locker room on his phone. He knows. So this is not a dig on you. I'm just keep it simple. But yeah.
Or maybe it is a dig on him. I mean, you got to call it the way you see it, brother.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I don't love you. It's just, hey, up the game, bro.
Big believer that any sport really, but especially watching a lot of football, it's a game of momentum. When your offense is kind of, getting first down and you kind of start jiving and you have a play call like that, or like they always say, like a false start or holding, those are drive killers. In a bad play call that's a trick play like that, those are drive killers. Like you can't have that. Keep it simple, keep moving the ball, keep in those first. Yeah, but what do you got for me positive? I want to hear some positives.
Positives. All right. 8 for 12 on third down today.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. Yeah.
That is. Yep. We already mentioned the 433 yards, because I'm not going to mention anything more negative. We beat that up good enough. 433 yards total, total yards. That was pretty damn good. Darnold, 22 for 28, 347 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's
great game. Yeah.
Amazing. Love it. Yeah. What else do we have?
No touchdown passes for Kirk.
No touchdown passes for Kirk. No turnovers for the Vikings. 3 turnovers for Atlanta. Only 6 penalties today for 35 yards. That's not so bad.
No. Yeah. I mean, that comes down to a lot of coaching. You got to, keep it clean. If you don't shoot yourself in the foot, you're going to be okay.
Yep. And penalties for Atlanta, 12 for 127 yards. So there's a hidden kind of gem there in the penalty play. Assuming the game is called fairly, which I think most of them are.
At the end of the day, minus bias.
Yeah, right. Because normally you hold because you've been beaten. Normally you get called for pass interference because you've been beaten. Mm-hmm. So there's this hidden kind of game that gets played around the penalty. If the game is called truly fairly, the team with the most penalties is the team that was struggling the most.
Yeah.
You'd
think so. I mean, you're trying to cover and you tackle or bring someone down or hold them, and you get that big penalty call, and you get beat on the rush, and you're trying to hold. So, I agree. It shows a lot for which team kind of was kind of controlling, or at least specific plays, beating their respective player.
Right. Here's a hidden gem. CJ Ham, instead of fumbling the ball, he was a fumble recoverer today. Shout out to CJ Ham. Big fan. My favorite Viking of all time is CJ Ham, and Minnesota boy, Duluth, Augustana, undrafted, came to the Vikings practice squad, worked his way up to a starting role, fullback. One of the only fullbacks. There's probably 3 or 4 of them in the NFL, and and shout out, nominated for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, which
in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinion, I think, is the highest award that an NFL player can receive. It's excellence on and off the field, work in the community. And I think that, is huge when it comes to building a fan base and building, I don't only want my team to be great. I want them to win a Super Bowl, but I don't want them to win a Super Bowl and be a, piece of crap team. I want them to do both. I want them to be active in the community because they're getting paid a ton of money. I want them active in the community, donating to charities, doing work, and being respectable people and not being buttheads, numbskulls. So
yeah.
But yeah, CJM, my favorite player of all time.
CJM, your favorite player. All right, of all time. I'm gonna shout out to Josh Metellus because today was his first interception of the season. And shout out to Byron Murphy. This was his 5th interception of the season.
Yeah, so, was it 5 and 6 games?
Hell of a game. Lots of really good things I think to be happy about on this team. And I think a 42-21 win. It's awesome. Try to maybe get the bulk of those 42 points earlier in the game instead of the fourth quarter because it's better for my blood pressure. It's probably better for my sex life. It's probably better for everything.
Yeah.
So KOC, if you are listening, let's try to flip the script a little bit more on this.
He is listening. We're homies. You knew that. You're homies too. We know. He knows
know that.
Yeah, he's watching.
Well, tell your guy, Flores to just call a little better, tighter game next time. Maybe, maybe had some personal issues this week. Got caught with kids coming in the room while I was watching film. I don't know what it was, but we can shore that up, I think, for the Bears.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, watching like pregame stuff, he was sitting on the. Kirk Cousins was sitting there throwing the ball, and I think he was sitting there talking to him, chatting him up. So maybe let a little emotions get in the game.
Let your guys do their thing. Stay out of the way. See, let him get his work done.
Yeah.
All right. Parting words. Let's use for this week. So I hope are we going to do this again next week?
I'm in. Hell yeah. I've enjoyed this.
Okay. Let's do it again next week. So parting words, game ball. You get one person to give it to. Who are you giving it to?
Sam Darnold.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's a great call. If you already took Sam Darnold, then I'd have to give a ball to somebody else. I'd give it to Jordan Anderson.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
Hell of a game. He made some great catches. And coming back, helping your quarterback the way he did when some of those balls were underthrown.
They kind of jump balls. Yeah.
A+ game, man.
Yeah.
I already expected it from Justin Jefferson, so he doesn't ever get a game ball. He gets like the perpetual game ball for me.
Yeah. It's, you give that one away and he always gets that one side one, like, the runner up, like obviously he should get one because he's who he is. But
he gets the Super Bowl game ball, like the big one.
Yeah. Week 1, start of the season. Hey, we know what you're going to do this year because you do it every year and you're going to do it for the rest of your career. Yeah. Enjoy this, 6-time too big ball, but everyone else is going to get the game ball from here on out because, you can't have one. It's not fair. It's like being a coach as a dad and giving your game ball to the son. You can't do that. You can't. He's going to get one, so you got to give it to the next person. So yeah, Jordan Addison, Sam Darnold. I think that's two good ones.
Okay, and then being a good sport, I do want to say a shout out real quick for one Atlanta Falcon who had an exceptional game, and that was Darnell Mooney. Fantastic. He's on
game. Danielle's
6 catches, 142 yards. Yeah. Great game for him.
Yeah, it kind of tore it up. Yeah. And,
he didn't get any touchdowns because Kirk Cousins didn't throw any touchdowns. So there you go. Sorry,
Tyler Gier and
Darnell.
Bijan Robinson running all over us. Yeah.
All right, man.
Good for Falcons.
Good episode.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm gonna kill the feed.
Yeah, we'll just keep getting better every week. So stay tuned for anyone that's watching, if they are watching.
Yeah.
So, if not, I've just enjoyed talking to the old man.